Hi everyone, it's Lauren, and today I am going to be exposing my shame, and that is all of the unread books that I own. They are handily all in this box because, as I'm sure you know, we moved house recently, and I did go through all of the books I owned. I sorted them out so that if there were books that I hadn't read yet, they'd be in this box and I'd know where to get them. So we're going to count how many there are. We're going to go through them. It's quite good going through books like this sometimes because I often forget what I've even got. I also am going to have a look on my Kindle so we can add those to the total count of books. And I would love to hear from you if you've read any of these, what you thought of them, what ones you think I should read next, because it's going to be a little bit daunting because I obviously want to read all of them, and some of them I've owned for a very long time, so it will be good to get some advice. What should be right at the top of that TBR? What's the most pressing book for me to read? So without further ado, let's get started. It's like Christmas. Some of these are probably going to be quite recent, the ones on top. Right, so the first one I've got here is Punching the Air by Ibi Zeboy and Yusuf Salaam. I featured this in a book haul recently. This is a book in verse about a boy who is wrongfully imprisoned. It's a YA book, so that's number one. We've got number two, The Discomfort of Evening by Marika Lucas Reineveld, and this won the International Booker Prize this year. Number three is A Classless Society by Orwin W. Turner, and this is about Britain in the 1990s. We've got Tony Blair on the back reading The Sun in a plane. I don't know if you can see that picture very well. And I just thought this would be an interesting history book, like about recent history, about the culture of the 90s and what it was like, because obviously I was a child in the 90s. It's a very big book, which is probably why I haven't read it yet. Oh, this counting's gonna start getting difficult. Right, number four, Scabby Queen by Kirsten Innes, and this is actually this was sent to me by the publisher. This is a new release. It's about a woman who dies and all these other people in her life kind of telling her story. She's like an old staunch feminist, like an old activist, something like that. Am I going to give you a plot description of each of these books? Let's see how long it takes. So 5 is The Robber Bride by Margaret Atwood. Again, I've had this for such a long time. I really like Margaret Atwood, and I don't know why I haven't got to this yet. There is no reason. Number 6 is From the Mouth of the Whale by Sean, who is an Icelandic writer. And that's all I know about that one. I think counting these books as I go might get a little bit confusing. Maths degree. Number 7 is Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi, which has obviously been shortlisted for the Booker Prize this year. Number 8 is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, which is like a kind of queer memoir. Number 9 is Once and Forever, The Tales of Kenji Miyazawa, which was a book of short stories which was lent to me by my friend. Number 10 is Brooklyn by Colin Tabine. Number 11 is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, which is also lent to me by Kate, so I need to keep these together so I know to give them back to her. Number 12 is a bit of a beast, which is The Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Yes, I've not read any of these yet. I've just got Wolf Hall, I don't have the others. I'll see how I get on with this one first. I'm going to stop counting these as I go because I literally had to just pause and recount all of these books on my bed before I remembered it was number 12, so I think I'll probably just do that at the end. So we also have The Everyday Dancer by Deborah Bull, which is like a memoir of her life as a ballerina. We have Meatless Days by Sarah Saleri, which is a memoir of life in newly created Pakistan. The Book of Strange New Things by Michelle Faber. I've had this for a couple of years and clearly not read it yet. The Code of the Woosters by P.G. Woodhouse. Now, I've never read any P.G. Woodhouse. Actually, Will has started reading some of these from the beginning, and I think this got sent to me by a publisher, and I just kind of didn't want to throw it away because I thought, oh well, I've never read any of the Woosters. I don't know if you could just read them in any order. I imagine you probably can. I doubt there's like a massive overarching plot. But yeah, perhaps I should get to this at some point. Then we could have a book that we can discuss as husband and wife. This Brutal House by Niven Govindam, which is about like the New York Vogue ball community. XX by Angela Chadwick, which is about where women can procreate without men or something. So this kind of reminds me of like The Power by Naomi Alderman, something like that. We've got Women, Race and Class by Angela Davis. Still haven't read this. Angels in America by Tony Kushner, which is a play, and I have actually seen the play, but I haven't read it. I kind of thought it's one of those things when you watch a play and there's some really long monologues and it's all about the AIDS crisis, and it was just stunning, and you know, you think I'm going to need to read this again and get all of this into my brain. What shall we go with? Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Heard some great things about this. Fireflies, show them to you before I speak. Fireflies by Louise Sagasti, which I just got from this Charco Press, which translates Latin American work. So I don't really know very much about the plot, but that was the reason I got this book. We have The Lark by E. Nesmith. I got a set of these really beautiful Penguin Women Writers series. I actually haven't read any of them, so you're going to see all 4 of them appearing in this little haul. We've got another book by Sean, which is The Whispering Muse. So that's interesting. I didn't realise I had 3 books. I've also read The Blue Fox by him, which I really enjoyed, which is why I have 2 more of his work, apparently. Here's one everyone will know, The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Oh, if we're getting towards the end of the box, perhaps there'll be fewer books because they'll all be bigger ones like this. Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. Again, this has obviously been everywhere. Like, it's historical fiction, I think, and it's about a girl who everyone thinks she's drowned in the Thames, and then she like comes back to life. Something like that. Oh, My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh. This was like quite far down the box. I'm not appreciating that. I really wanted to read this while we were in lockdown. I thought it was going to be very appropriate. But now we have The Magician by Somerset Maugham. I've not read any Somerset Maugham. And I think this was a gift. I think Jean got me this. Again, probably like 5 years ago or something stupid. So that's embarrassing. Here's another one of those books, Birds of America by Mary McCarthy. Bel Canto by Anne Patchett. I've never read any Anne Patchett, and this was one that kept coming up as that people would recommend. So I bought it and then didn't read it. Classic me. Now we have Feral by George Monbiot, who is, well, he's a Guardian columnist and he's very big on ecology and the environment and being green and all that kind of stuff, and this is about like rewilding, I guess, the world and getting rid of the urban landscape. I just really like how he writes in his columns, so I think it'd be interesting to read a whole book by him. And another book about wilding, actually, right underneath it, which is Wilding by Isabella Tree, and I believe she and her partner like took over some land and did rewild it. This is like her story of actually achieving that, which I think is quite interesting. Something I would like to attempt on a small scale in our garden. Something I have been meaning to get to for ages next, and that's Guest House for Young Widows, Women Among ISIS by Azadeh Moaveni, and this is interviews with some of the brides of ISIS. And yeah, this has been like consistently in my pile that I normally keep next to my bed of books I'm going to read. So I don't know why it's not been read yet. Probably because there's all these other ones that I also want to read. We've got The Sugarless Plum by Zipporah Clark, and this is again another memoir about being a ballerina, and she's diabetic. Yeah, so I don't know about how much the diabetes is going to be like a big feature in this book, but I do like hearing about what it's like to be a ballerina and then crying that I'm not one. We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer, which is about climate change, I believe, and like kind of what we can do, what we personally can do about it. Grand Union by Zadie Smith. I have quite a mixed relationship with Zadie Smith. I like some of her books I love, and some of the books I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. These are some short stories. I guess I will still, I guess I will still read this. I might as well keep it in the list. I'm not sure though, this isn't high up my priority list at the moment, so I'd love to know if like anyone's read it and what they thought of it. The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Durray. This has been, I got this quite recently, and it's just at the bottom because it's a large hardback book, which is about a kind of woman in Nigeria and who is like very, like she's a woman and also she's from a low socioeconomic background, so she's quite voiceless and powerless. And yeah, heard amazing things about this one. Oh, I've got some down here I've had for such a long time. Gingerbread by Helen Oyemi. This is literally a proof of Gingerbread. That's how long I've had it. And I still haven't read it. When does it say it's coming out? March 2019. So definitely had this like nearly 2 years now. Constellations by Sinead Gleeson. This is a book of essays and reflections from life, it says there. And I have heard really nice things about this. It's just being in the mood for essays sometimes. Sometimes I just don't get round to it. I'm being a bit swamped by books here. I feel a little bit like a very small child at Christmas when they've got loads of huge presents all around them. So I've got China's Asian Dream by Tom Miller, which is kind of like just a non-fiction book about China, because I do find China quite interesting, and we don't, you know, obviously we focus very much on British English history at school, and anything outside of that is American or European, so we don't really learn a lot about cultures outside. And I am interested in China. I'd like to learn a little bit more about it. The final one of the Penguin Women Writers series, we've got Lifting the Veil by Ismat Chugtai, and this is a collection of her writings. I'm not sure if it's, I'm assuming it's short stories, but I actually don't know because I've not read her before. We're getting to the bottom of the box now. I can see the bottom of the box, so we're making progress. So next we have Kai by Lukasz Tumin, and I think I just bought this probably at the same time I bought those books by Sean. It's by Twisted Spoon Press. But I thought the cover looked really cool, and Tumin is a Czech writer, and I was, at the time I was trying to read kind of more widely. I say at the time because I've been very lax recently about trying to read. I actually don't know that this is translated. I was going to say translated fiction. I actually think this might be written in English. But in any case, trying to read writers who are not, like, English is not their first language, outside of kind of English and American canon. And it's something I need to remind myself to do a little bit more, actually. I have another proof here, which I still haven't read, and that's A Place for Us by Fatima Fahim Mirza. And I know that this was like one of Jen's favourite books the year it came out. And yeah, 14th of June 2018. So it's been high up my list, obviously, it's such a priority. Oh, we've got like 4 more. Ah, no! It's finally happened. So we have Eleanor by Jason Gurley, which is an absolutely beautiful, it's such a beautiful cover, and this was on my shelves for quite a long time because it's just so gorgeous. And we've got some like forest around the back there. And that's such a trap I fall into, of buying like a beautiful book and then just displaying it and not reading it. I also have Queer Intentions by Amelia Abraham, which is like a personal journey through LGBTQ culture. We have Once Upon a Time in the East by Xiao Lu Guo, which is a memoir. And I think this was shortlisted for the for some prize. I'm going to say Costa, but it might not have been. It might not have been that, it might have been a different prize. But yeah, this is a memoir, and I'm getting quite into reading memoirs recently. And finally we have Swimming Lessons by Claire Fuller. So that's everything. That's everything here. Let me count them, and then I'll count. Then we can go through some of the books on my Kindle as well. 8, 9, 10, 25, 26, 27, 28, 44, 45, 46, 47. It's not bad. It's not bad. I know some people's TBRs are like hundreds of books long. I also know there's actually another one, 48, because Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys, I know I packed into a different box and I haven't read that yet. It's because it was on a different part of like my shelves. In fact, there might be a couple of others that were on my shelves. I know Wide Sargasso Sea definitely was, so we'll say at least 48 for Jean Rhys. And now let's go through the Kindle. Right, so like almost immediately I've been like, those, I forgot that I downloaded those books. So I have a Rogue of One's Own by Evie Dunmore, which is like a sequel to the Bringing Down the Duke, which was quite a silly suffragette romance that we read early in the year for the Feminist Orchestra, and I did really enjoy it, so I pre-ordered the sequel. So that's one. We've got the Romanovs by Simon Sieberg Montefiore, which is a huge book about the Romanovs. I've been wanting to read it for a really long time. Often with huge books like that, I just get them on my Kindle because I just think if it's big, it's going to put me off, like just being able to hold it. We have Afropean by Johnny Pitts. We have Inglorious Empire by Shashi Tharoor. We have Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera, which I have been saving for Christmas. Because it's like a novella, like a Christmas romance novella. We have John Burnside, All One Breath, which I think is, I've definitely have since like 2015, because I bought a lot of John Burnside stuff when we were doing the Man Booker Prize vlogging. And Park Lane by Frances Osborne, because she was, oh gosh, she's George Osborne's wife, and she was a judge, I think, that year of the Booker Prize. And I remember thinking like, oh, I'll read some of her work, like hers and John Burnside's work, so then I'll know what maybe book they might pick. But it was such a stress actually just getting through the book along list. I was like, not reading her book as well. I don't think I want to. We have The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell, Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal by Jeanette Winterson, In Search of Her Mother's Gardens by Alice Walker, The Blind Fisherman by Mia Couto, A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I really want to read that. One Day I Will Write About This Place by Binyavanga Wainana. Veronica Decides to Die by Paulo Coelho. I mean, I read The Alchemist and hated it. So now I don't know if I want to read that either. The Blazing World by Margaret Cavendish. I really want to read this because I've read 2 books based on Margaret Cavendish and her work that I really liked, which was The Blazing World by Siri Husbert and Margaret the First by Danielle Dusson. And I wanted to read the original book that she wrote, and have not done that yet. The Professor by Charlotte Bronte. There's actually quite a lot of classics on here. Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell. Villette by Charlotte Bronte. Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. Yeah, I was watching some booktube back in the day. The Legends of King Arthur and His Knights. Okay, lovely. Beowulf. I don't think I'll be reading those. I don't know why I have that. The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens, The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I do really like Elizabeth Gaskell. I read Cranford a couple of years ago. It was one of my favourite books of that year, so I think I would really like to read those quite soon. The Three Musketeers, apparently, by Alexandre Dumas. The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. The 39 Steps by John... Like, why... What's John Buchan? I'm like, why do I have that? And Bleak House by Charles Dickens. So I think obviously, I'm sure a lot of these were free. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 9, 30. So that's another 30 actually. That's loads. I didn't realise there's so many in my Kindle. I've also got some audiobooks. Let's include those. So I only have 3 actually that I've not started listening to yet, and that's Catherine the Great by Robert K. Massey, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, and It's Not About the Burqa by Mariam Khan. So the first 2, well, the first one is history book, obviously. Thinking Fast and Slow, I just feel like that's non-fiction that has been around. Lots of people that don't read books a lot, that's going to sound really up myself, but you know what I mean, lots of people who aren't big readers say that they really enjoyed this book, and it's about kind of how we think. So I quite like listening to non-fiction on Audible, and It's Not About the Burqa is going to be one of our picks for the Feminist Orchestra. That's our pick November and December, but I've just already downloaded it, ready to go on Audible. So that's another 3. So what's 48 plus 33? Come on, quick maths person. 81. Okay. That's under 100. I think that's pretty good, I've got to say. Under 100 I'm quite pleased with, especially for someone so surrounded by booktube and all of that. There's quite a lot of temptation normally, so I think that's not too bad going, although maybe it doesn't feel so bad because they're all kind of contained within one box and they're not like all over the place. Please let me know if you would recommend any of these, like which ones are your favourites and which ones do you think I should really make some time for, because I'd like to be able to prioritise these, and at the moment I have no idea really how I'm gonna do that. How many unread books do you think you have? Do you actually know? Like, do you have them on your Goodreads or something like that? Some people do count their books and know how many unread they have, or could you guess? Are you a bit like me and just collect books and then forget that you even own them? Or are you very strict, like a 1 in, 1 out kind of person? Let me know your reading habits in the comments below, and I will see you next time with a reduced TBR, with what I'm actually going to be planning on reading in the next October, December. So yeah, if you can let me know, give me some of your recommendations, and it will inform what I pick for my next video. And I'll see you then. Bye.